Welcome, everyone. Welcome to today's episode. Today, I'm talking to an amazing woman who I happened to meet while we were doing a course with one of our mentors, and we happened to come across each other. But little did we know we had very much similarities and, of course, a common denominator, which was cancer. So before I introduce you, let me speak a little bit about Tracey. Tracey was diagnosed with Hodgkin's disease. She's a cancer survivor today. Her life purpose is to help others from her own experiences and to spread unconditional love and joy. Now, she's a Reiki master. She's an NLP master, a hypnotherapist, an empath, which I love, healer, alchemist, mentor, and life coach. Now, I guess she's more than that, and I can't wait for her to share her story. So welcome, Tracey.
Thank you, Grace. It's lovely to be here.
It is lovely. Like I said, we've known each other for a while now. We both happen to do a course with one of our mentors who we both admire and love. And we took it from there. So, which was quite interesting. Now, Tracey lives on the border of New South Wales and Queensland. And obviously I live in Melbourne, but like us, she knows exactly what we're going through with this COVID lockdowns and everything else involved. But we're not going to talk about that. I want Tracey to actually talk about her story. So let us in a little bit about Tracey.
Okay, so you can probably tell by my accent, I'm originally from Wales in the UK. And my story kind of started on the cancer journey. I was 18. I'd found a lump in my neck, and being 18, at the top of your game, and my energy, and I've always been very high energy. I started getting very tired, falling asleep in the day, and I think because it was in my gland, which is what happens when you've got a sore throat or anything, your glands get triggered and they come up. And so, there was a lump, like I said. I did go to the doctors. I went through 3 doctors in the same practice, and they kept sending me for tests. They thought I had tuberculosis at one stage, because they did see there was some kind of mass in my chest. To the point, if you imagine, I found the lump in the November, and I didn't find out what it was until June the 1st. So by that time, it had spread, to my groin. So if you imagine, you've got glands throughout your neck and your armpits, through your chest and through your stomach. You've got them down through, on either side of your genital area, your spleen being your main one at the end. So I'd got it over what they call stage 4. So it had spread pretty much through. They say when it goes to the spleen with Hodgkin's, you're pretty much game over, because from there it spread to the rest of your body. So I couldn't breathe properly. That was the major thing, I think. I'd go upstairs and I'd be really out of breath. And God, I couldn't catch my breath. I couldn't open my lungs properly. So that was the major thing. There wasn't really any pain at that stage. And I remember going to the hospital appointments, and my mum was dedicated. I was the baby in the family. So she did the appointments with me. Now, imagine my mum's life. And she'd lost her mum when she was 7, and then her dad when she was 24. So she tragedy and a lot of loss in her life. So obviously, her family, me and my brother and my dad were her world. And she protected us, you can imagine. So obviously, I kind of knew in my gut that it was something kind of major. Being an empath, I felt into it, and I thought it was cancer, if I'm going to be honest. But there wasn't something I could speak to my mum, but there were signs in the hospital that would say, cancer's a word, not a sentence. And I'd keep pointing it out to her. And, oh, don't say that, she'd say. But anyway, they sent me for the biopsy. I don't know what it's like for your experience, Grace, but after the actual operation, there was no doctors, no nurses for me to ask how it went. And then obviously a few days after, when the results came through, they called us back in, and my mum was sitting next to me, and he said, "You've got Hodgkin's disease. Do you know what that is?" And I said, "No." I looked at Mum. Tumours on your glands. I said, "No, can you just tell me straight?" He said, "Oh, you've got cancer of the lymph glands." And my reaction was, "Oh!" And I think it was because we did so long not knowing what was wrong. And for me, you see, the fight really starts when you know what you're up against.
Yeah, exactly.
And for me, it was so much worse than the knowing. But then obviously I turned around and my mum's there crying her eyes out. And I had to grab her at that stage and say, "I promise you, if I've got any strength in me, I'm not going to go before you go. I promise you, was where my fight started, I think. It was that, knowing that this woman had gone through enough, and I don't think she could have handled losing a baby, if I'm going to be honest. I knew before I was told that I had it, but I had this strong feeling that I wasn't going to die from it. It was a really strong knowing, I suppose. And so from that journey then, they said that I would lose my hair, and I was fine with that. But they said I probably wouldn't be able to have children because of the chemotherapy I was going to have. So that, again, was something that hit me like a steam train, I think, for the first couple of days. And after that, then kind of dusted myself off, pulled myself together and pushed forward. And we did this cycle of strong versus weak. So it was a strong chemo, and then 2 weeks later, a weak chemo. Obviously, they'd take my blood count. And obviously, if my blood count wasn't high enough, then they'd have to skip a few weeks. Well, it pushed out what was meant to be 6 months of chemo over 2 years.
Wow.
Very harsh. I mean, I lost all my hair. My skin was so sensitive that just even raindrops on my skin would burn my skin. It was that sensitive. And, I'd have to choose, like Christmas and New Year. Did I want to miss out Christmas, or did I want to miss out New Year? Because, obviously just after the really strong chemo, then I couldn't eat. I was a mess. Like having one, I remember one time I had one ulcer in my mouth going to sleep at night. And then I had it through my whole mouth and down my whole neck. And this is what it was like. There was no immune system whatsoever. I insisted, as part of my, I suppose, mental health during that time, of being an outpatient. I didn't want to, I thought associated being in hospital as being sick. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Did manage to keep a very positive attitude through the whole thing, to the point that they did a case study on me, and to the point that they actually asked me to counsel other families and people going through it, because I managed to stay so positive. And I think the strength of my mother was something that I managed to inherit. And like I said, I was so happy because I felt so blessed that I had such an amazing family, amazing team I was working with. I felt very lucky that the cancer had come to me at my strongest point of life, at 18, right? So I had a fight. And the fact that I knew what it was and I knew what I was up against. And so that was it. So obviously, we did two years. It was all, I had the choice of having the Hickman line in my chest, but I wanted to be someone that if I came through the other side, there was no evidence of it on my body, if you know what I mean? So I did put it all in my arms, which, I struggled with that. We had collapsed veins. We had putting my arms in boiling water to get the veins up, to put the, it wasn't an easy ride of that, but I managed to isolate it to both arms, and I thrombosed like 6 of the veins in each of the arms over the, and I had burn marks at the top of my arms here where the stuff was going in. And I found that the faster the chemo was going in, the more painful it was, whereas the slower it would go in, it wasn't as painful. But then, of course, then you'd start getting sick during the treatment, because what could be 3 hours of pain could be like 12 hours, and then you're sick as a dog at the end of it and throwing up and stuff. So it was finding a balance. And it's like anything traumatic or anything that happens to us in our world. We kind of find where we need to sit with it, and we find the easiest ways around it. So I kind of pushed myself to a point that if I didn't eat by lunchtime, 12 o'clock, like let's say I've had breakfast, if I didn't have lunch by that time, then the feeling of sick would come back. So I had to eat, really quickly and get some food in me. It was hard. I'm not going to say it wasn't hard. On the days that I wasn't coping, on the days that I was feeling flat, I'd go and tell Mum I was going to go and have a lie down. And I think sleep was my friend during that whole period. And I'd lock the door and cry away from her so she didn't see that. I didn't want to put to her. Being an empath, it was harder for me to feel what everybody was feeling around me, I see. And so it was easier to put on that front, I think. So keeping in mind, it was meditation I was doing every day. And I did go for acupuncture. I did one session of that and it was amazing. I've got to say, I advise anybody to do that. they did say you can keep this energy you've got now over 3 days, but you know me, I can't do that. I was skin and I burnt it all off in one day. But you know, Reiki was really good for me too. And I think that's after the fact, after I then went into remission, Reiki was something that my mum actually paid for me to get attuned to at Reiki 1. Because as you're giving Reiki, you're receiving Reiki yourself, as she wanted to keep me safe. So yes, just before my 21st birthday, I was put into remission. And I kind of had this feeling that, you know, this was it. I had 5 years now, it could come back. And I know that anybody that's listening to this podcast today that might be in remission will understand that. You know, you want to make a difference. And, you know, I had 5 years that if it was going to come back, you know, being 18, just getting the, you know, the freedom that we get from being a child, that I can make my own life. And then I basically had, you know, I hadn't managed to live my life. I hadn't managed to do anything at that stage. And then I was too ill to do anything. So what I did during my cancer was I made a bucket list of all the things that I wanted to do that when I came out the other side. And I say when, because I did keep all my chat positive. I never said if, it was always when. I was always very positive about the fact that I was going to get through it. So the bucket list was my list of things, you know, skydive, you know, things like travel the world, you know, don't let fear hold me back, you know, all that sort of stuff. And so, you know, have a kid. They said I couldn't have a child. I'll have a child, thanks. So my bucket list, you know, I was like really ambitious. My bucket list was this thing that I worked towards. So yeah, so when I went into remission, then it was just before my 21st birthday. And yeah, I went to America for 3 months. We were out in LA, San Francisco, Las Vegas. I traveled around Europe, which was amazing. So I got the travel bug at that stage. Australia really was, I think, the last on the list. So you see, my mum had told me this before I was 3, when I started talking. I always said to her that before I was 20, I'd say to her, I'm going to have a serious illness, but I won't die. And I'll always live in a hot country, I used to say to her.
Wow.
So Australia was always somewhere I wanted to go, because we'd watched Crocodile Dundee as a child. And I'd always wanted to go there, right? Yeah. I just loved, there was some draw. I always had this draw to so obviously Australia was last on my bucket list. And it was really hinged on the visa. Would they allow me to have the visa? I was in remission. I could be a liability. I could get cancer again when I was out there. And it went to the Australian government, and God bless them. They gave me the visa. I intended to backpack a year. That was it, really. Wow. Going back then to when I had the cancer, and they asked me to counsel people. Well, you've got to understand, a large majority of the patients that I was actually counselling died. And so quite a responsibility to them. And I had to say to them, you know, I promise you, I'll live a life that you would be proud of. It was kind of a thing, you know, when you get so close to the people that are going through it with you. And when they die and you survive, you kind of have this thing where you feel as though you owe it to them to have a life that's filled with joy, right?
Absolutely.
So yeah, so I suppose the cancer at an early age put me on my spiritual path. It really did. You know, it changes your whole perspective of life. I remember feeling as though from the moment they told me I had cancer that, you know, I'd been in this aircraft hanging with a torch all of my life, and suddenly somebody turned the lights on. And it was like, wow. Like, you know, you don't have the barriers that seem to exist just being a normal person. You know, you tend to push the boundaries a bit more. You tend to, you know, you realize that people, you know, you're either a leader or a follower in this world. So there was a lot of perspectives that came to me, and, you know, I should write a book, but anyway, there was a lot of stuff. Anyway, ended up coming to Australia, did do some backpacking, which was great, but obviously got sponsored pretty quickly. And then the rest's history. I've been out here for 21 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm still in remission. But secondary cancers, they've said that would come through for me, breast being one of them, and then skin is another, because of the chemo that I had. Really, there weren't that many survivors of the chemo that I had. that are here still today. So I do have hospital appointments. I've got my blood doctor over here that keeps an eye on me, as well as other specialists. And I'm immune compromised, which is fun during COVID, but there's other stuff that's coming up for me as well, that comes up that I have to deal with. So being a Reiki master has really helped with that.
Before we speak about that, I just want to go back on when you were 18, and obviously you're going through the chemo, because I know that a lot of women who go through breast cancer prior to menopause and all of that, and if they have to have a double mastectomy or they have to have a hysterectomy, they're actually advised to speak to a fertility clinic and stuff like that, possibly freezing your eggs or whatever the process is, because of the chemo affecting you later on. Was that something that was brought forward to you as well? And were they sort of saying, well, look, we might have to freeze your eggs if you want to prior to getting the chemo, or it wasn't an option?
It was an option, but not a very viable one. I think keeping in mind 48 now, right? I'm talking 30 years ago. 48 next month, but I suppose the viability of the eggs wouldn't have been as great as it is today. And to be honest with you, I had a strong gut feeling that, hey, it's only 6 months. That's what I was thinking at the start of it. 2 years later, I probably should have taken the egg option.
I'll take option number 2, the eggs.
I know, yeah. That would be nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was an option that was given to me, but not a very viable one.
Yeah.
But I one that if you're put in that position, then absolutely do it. Because just like me, it was a learning, you see. I was told was going to be a 6-month, chemo cycle, ended up being 2 years. So, I think you've got to remember that the fight is the fight. But if you've got things that you can put aside and things like, especially if you want to be a mum, something that's key, right? So yeah, of course.
Exactly.
Take all of the, if somebody gives you options that are good options, and take them. You've nothing to lose, take them.
And like you said, because when I think about 30 years ago, how cancer was, cancer patients were processed 30 years ago. Even like my mother, who she had cancer 30 years ago, and it was an external one. But even back then, it was just so different. Because I think if I speak to a surgeon today, they'll be like, oh my God, that sounds taboo. But my mother actually had to spend a year in hospital, do radiation almost every day, and she wasn't allowed anywhere near the sun because hers was external at the time. But I just think to myself, it does make sense when you said it. Yours was 30 years from now, maybe 30. I'm not saying there wasn't the option, but like you said, 30 years and fast forward 30 years, it's a greater chance of your eggs surviving and things like that. And I think it is an option for women who are whether they're going, no matter what cancer they're going through, where if they have to do chemo, that they are given the option, if they want to become mums, to freeze their eggs earlier. Like you said, it could have been 6 months later and great, I don't need those frozen eggs, I've got my own. But you know what I mean? It's also for the ones that if they say, well, guess what? You got no eggs, at least you go, great, well, I've got the frozen ones. Whether I'm not sure, because I've never been a mum, whether that could be, you can have it as an IVF, or whether it had to be a surrogate or whatever it is. But at least it gave you that option.
IVF. Yeah, I think it's an IVF option.
There you go. So, yeah. So,
really well.
Yeah. Yeah. So you have that option. So now you've come across that, you're in remission, you decide to follow Crocodile Dundee to Australia and where else would you go? But obviously in the north of Australia, where there's crocodiles more so than anything over there.
Well, it's like my mum said, you're from South Wales, so you might as well live in New South Wales.
There you go.
Yeah,
so that's right. So you so you now you've moved on. So how did going back to being able to be there, because I find it really great how you said, it's like a light goes off. It's like you said to the other cancer patients, yes, I'm here to show you that I'm going to make the best of my life. I'm going to make it fantastic. And I'm going to do it not only for me, but I'm going to do it for you too. And I'm going to do for the first time in my life what I was put on this earth to do. And that's where I guess, speaking the spiritual path helps you with that, because a lot of people think, oh, I've just got cancer, I'm going to go back to my old habits. Well, you know what? That doesn't necessarily help or plan out. Do what's best. But at the same time, I always talk about the mind, body, and spirit. So having said that, now you've come to the point where, okay, I'm going to take a spiritual look at this. It's like you were on a spiritual path anyway, but it's just really sort of, opening that up even more so. So then you become a Reiki master. So let us know from there.
Okay, well, look, so Reiki 1 was what I did. It was my mum. Didn't know anything about it. Went to see this lady in Wales called Roz, and got my Reiki 1. And then I just had my Reiki 1 for a long time. Obviously, life happened. You're young, you find people, your boyfriends. Life still happens to you afterwards. Absolutely. Right? Life just doesn't stop.
No.
I'm pleased to tell you, Grace, that in 2009, I had my baby girl. So I was with my partner. We have actually separated now last year, but we were together 15 years and we had lovely Jean. So
yeah.
Like again, life still happens to you, right? So when I was 3 months pregnant, my mum did actually die, and she died from. So
which cancer? Sorry,
ovarian cancer. Mm-hmm. At the time, they'd found it, and she was still over in Wales. It had spread to her intestines and her liver. So unfortunately, she was terminal. But it gave us the time to reflect. And she'd said, at the time, she'd said to God, she said, take me, not her. And she said, and this is my positive attitude, right? Well, he gave us 15 years, she said. Right? So again, it's you, it's the story that you give it, I think, is a big lesson for me. For me, then, having gone through cancer, it's a different experience going through it than it is being the person on the outside. See, if we do die through it, then we're going back to, in spirit, right?
Exactly.
Where we're stuck behind, picking up the pieces. As mum passed away. So, 3 months pregnant, I lost my mum then. And obviously Jean then is named after my mum. And it was, again, she chose to leave at a time where I was pregnant with my child, right? So, she made sure she protected me, that I wasn't going to suddenly hit the bottle or do anything crazy. It kept me in my center and helped me process her death a lot better because I was pregnant. And then from that journey, again, then I did Reikis 2, 3, and 4, a master. So I did that. And again, see, when someone really close to you passes, everything they say is your Bible then. From that journey then, gosh, I worked in corporate for a number of years in executive search, and that's very much networking. I suppose it's career counselling. I think counselling has been something that I've always done. And then big, huge catastrophe like 2 years ago when COVID first came out and we first went into lockdown. Within a space of 3 weeks, I lost my job, got made redundant. My husband said he wanted to leave me, and I found a breast lump all in the 3 weeks. So that was a huge wake-up call for me. The breast lump, as it turned out, was a cyst, but we all know that feeling.
Absolutely.
There was still the waiting period, and for the waiting period to be in that waiting period, and then he leaves me, that was just a catastrophe. But what I realised, you see, after that, and I found out it was a cyst, it made me realise that this was my second chance. And essentially, the relationship wasn't great at that point. So he was actually setting me free. And rather than sit there and feel destroyed and all that sort of stuff, I actually went, well, this is my chance to heal myself, which is obviously where I met you on that path. One of the greatest mentors in the world.
Absolutely, yeah.
A lot of his stuff. And then from there, I did the NLP. And I went on to do NLP Masters and the hypnotherapy, because I'm very much, I'm a strong healer myself. And there's just too many people out there that need healing.
Yeah.
And positive attitude, I think, is the key thing that everybody needs. It's the story that you give something. It really is. Like, for instance, even in this day and age, I always gave myself the story of, thank God I've got Hodgkin's disease, because it has to go through the lymph system before it can spread. And I'm 18. So those are my two positives that I charged forward with. So with any cancer that you have, or any situation that you're in at the moment, you could say to yourself, well, thank God it's now and not 30 years ago. So the treatments are better, whatever story you give it. But I think the story that sets you up to move forward.
Absolutely. And I agree, because the thing is too, you hit the nail on the head, because you can sit there saying the poor me, why me, and things like that. And it's not going to move you forward. It's not going to help you get through it, and like I guess, like you said in the beginning, it's the unknown that drives you crazy. But the moment you know what it is, you go, oh, okay, all right, now I can pull up my sleeves and get to work, because I know what it is. So, and that's when if you start giving it a story that doesn't suit you, you're going to end up staying there. And, our mentor says it all the time, change your story, because it's not suiting you. And we do. And I always talk about, the negative Nancy's out there. I love negative Nancy. I give them so much love. But, they're the ones that go, oh, yeah, well, I'm in remission, but I'm going to get it again. Or, oh, yeah, this has happened, but hey, it's going to come back. Or I'm going to die anyway. You know what? What are you telling yourself? What story are you telling yourself? It's crazy, but they say, it's the human needs. I mean, we could talk about our mentor and what we've learned, but it's the human needs of feeling significant. You stay in that mindset. But then, like our mentor says, and for those of you guys listening, our mentor, our greatest mentor who we're speaking about, is the one and only Tony Robbins. And he always says that our mess is okay, I'm not going to show if it's him or Dean Graziosi that says our mess is our message. Now, sorry, guys, but it's one of them. But, and it's so true, because like you said, you can now take the tools, and we're all here to serve others, and you've already found that out, because you're like, you know what, I want to become a Reiki master now, because, or I've got what it takes to be the Reiki master, because I want to serve. I want to heal others. I want others to heal like I did. But I guess also telling people your story, it gives people that inspiration, that hope. And I always say that if you want to look on hope and inspiration, look at us. Look at us. We're proven examples of surviving, cancer. We're both of us, you know what I mean? Because this is what it is. This is proof. But, but it's also, but I guess also the empath, and, and your mum, passing away, and that empath, I think, like me, it was like, okay, I'm going to be good, but I'm going to be good for everyone else. I want to be good for everyone else, because I don't think they can handle it. So I'm going to be good. I don't want them to go through the pain, so I'm going to be good. So that's where the empath comes in. But then from there, you've obviously got your child now. Do you ever, and I don't want to put something out there, I don't want to plant a seed, but do you ever, being a female, being a girl, do you ever have that concern? Or is there something that, I'm not, with Hodgkin's disease, I don't know if it's hereditary. I don't know much about it.
I'll be honest. I did a bit of research around, my mum had said at the time, why her? They said, well, she's sorry, it's just one of those cases. Like I was the youngest person in the UK enter, and at that time. And but it wasn't unusual, you see, that the family business was a petrol station. Oh. And my life, from being a baby, climbing up on the tankers, doing the measuring stick in the petrol. We used to put petrol in people's cars back then. Then I did a test, in recent years, and I'm actually very allergic to the petrol fumes. And so if you think my immune system was compromised for a number of years through my whole childhood, and then my mum got cancer as well, and we were both associated with it. Now, I'm not putting it out there. I'm not making everybody scared of it.
No,
you think
of course.
the exposure we had to petrol was far greater than anybody else would put it in their car. So there could have been that element to it, that might something that could have compromised my immune system back then. I don't. It's not a hereditary thing, so I don't think it's something I have to be concerned about with Jean.
That's good.
However, Mum never did the testing when she had the cancer at the time that we knew. We couldn't really tell if it had originated from the ovaries, or they thought it was the ovaries because it was so silent to start with. However, it was because the bowel was obviously consumed by it as well. So there was a question mark around if it was the bowel. So I suppose thinking from Jean's perspective, I think more so if it was the ovaries, I think is a possibility. And I'll make sure she's all over. I guess that's the one bonus thing as well. If we've come through cancer, they're watching us like hawks. I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah. Yes.
If you can't get cancer, it's the speed of when you find it and how fast you can turn it around in this day and age. So that's really is what it is. And then living with it afterwards and finding the help that you need if you need help afterwards, after you've gone through it. If you need help, then reach out and get it.
Having said that, because I come across a lot of women that I've spoken to who actually, say, out there, and I'm not having a go at, doctors and surgeons because they're marvelous, they're amazing people, things like that. But they all said the same sort of common denominator was, well, it was like, okay, I fixed you, leave. And it's like, well, hang on a minute, but physically I'm good, but emotionally, psychologically, I need a bit of help here. And I just actually, a couple of weeks ago, I interviewed a lady who actually said to me that she suffered from PTSD, and 80% of women go through some kind of that. And that's what I found, where people who are on a spiritual journey can help also. We're not saying we're special and we've got it all, but I think we can help women that haven't been exposed to, hey, it's okay to go through the emotions, the psychological, the emotional.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. About it from my perspective, it happened with me. I went from all the attention was on me for like 2 years, and then suddenly everybody goes, "Oh, she's fine now," and they walk away. So it's not just that; it's everybody around you, and God, you feel unsafe then because you've been supported. You feel really, I feel lost and alone, I think. The thing I didn't do at the time, you see, was I didn't get help. I just soldiered on through. And I think that was a big mistake. So
I think most women do, because also
sorts, just, like drinking, I suppose, when I was on my own and stuff, because I didn't want to have to deal with the feelings, not knowing what to do with them. And, then I suppose getting the help, and I did it all myself to a certain degree, but you tend to surround yourself with people then that you need to speak to. But the best ones you can are either a trained counsellor or somebody like us, Grace, that are on their spiritual path, or somebody that's actually experienced it themselves. There's no one better than they can empathise with you. They know what you're going through.
Absolutely. And that's what I mean, because I found that a lot of women too have their mum hat on, like a lot of them, if they get diagnosed while they're mums, and what they do is they keep that mum hat on. I'm a mum. So as soon as this is over, I've got to go back to being a mum. And I'm like, no. See, this was your little shaky of life to say, hey, you need to look after you first. And I know it sounds like a cliche when people say it. You need to put that oxygen mask on yourself first before you assist others. And the thing is, a lot of them forget that and they go back to assisting others. And it's like, you don't want another lesson. You want to be able to realize. And that's what it is, like you said, because a lot of them just go back to, nope, this is what I was before. I had to deal with what I had to deal with. And then I'm back to that again. And it's like, but what about you? Where are you? Who is you? And I talk about being your authentic self. Be your authentic. in today's society, you have so many people telling you what you should and shouldn't do. You've got so many people controlling you. But you know what? Like they say, even the people in a prison camp were free. Because if you know the difference, what I mean by that is where it doesn't get to you, and not just become another number, not just become another, a statistic, and it's all about, okay, well, I've had this. Let me learn from it. Let me grow from it, and I think that's really important. Like you said, having people like yourself, mentors, life coaches, things like that. I mean, I live with a life coach. So when I was going through my breast cancer,
I live with a psychotherapist and a counsellor, so I'm good as well.
So I say to a lot of people, I live with a life coach when I was going through breast cancer. It was tough, but it was good. I needed that. Obviously, my husband put on his husband hat. He put on my biggest fan hat, but he was also my biggest life coach as well. So, and I think, like you said, you just need those sort of people around you to help you, just help you along the way, tell you you're going to be okay. And I mean, going back to the patients that you said were terminally ill, because we don't know what's going to happen or when it's going to happen. But even that, I guess being in their presence, you help them understand, because a lot of them don't get to really be at peace with themselves, and I think that's really, really important. So even if whether you're going to survive or not, I think it's best to be at peace with yourself. So what were some of the tools, or what are some of the things that you found that would help patients that are either going through a later stage of cancer, or unfortunately terminal cancer, or they believe it's terminal, like you said, sorry to interrupt, like you said, they were talking about it being in your spleen, which is pretty tough and pretty bad, but how do you bring it, how do you draw that back?
So look, when you're sitting with someone that knows that their life is going to end, their philosophy on life is totally different. Inevitably, they worry more about the people around them. They're more concerned about the people they're leaving behind. They've kind of made peace with themselves about what's going to happen. There's regrets. There's all of maybe things they didn't get to do, or things like that. I think there's some real value there as well, because there's some real knowledge that comes through. I think when you strip away, you see all the stuff. We all live day to day worrying about where we're going to get money from. Or, I don't do that anymore. I try not to be concerned with all that stuff. But the normal stuff that happens for people in life. They're worrying about aging. I don't worry about aging.
I don't either.
Birthday, I'm 48 next month, and I'm gonna party to be on that one, in lockdown or not.
Absolutely.
It's not God. Embrace every year that goes by as a gift.
Absolutely.
Why are we worrying about getting older? Like, just be happy that you're still here, and the knowledge that you gain every year with all the lessons that come at us. So I think what it is they'll always give you advice. Live your life to the max, if they think that they're giving you something of value that you can take away, that can help you in your life, then it's giving them words to theirs. I think it's important that if somebody is going away, and this is the thing, and I think you all would have experienced this, any of the viewers that are listening to it have had cancer or going through cancer. I was getting people in my hometown that were crossing the street because they didn't want to talk to me, because they didn't know what to say. So everybody wants to be treated normally. So, treat them normally. Yes, you might be dying tomorrow, but treat them normally,
Absolutely.
So it's being normal with them. It's asking them their story. It's asking them what they want. It's advice. I don't think we can give them advice at that stage, because it's an individual journey,
I guess you can listen. You can just listen.
It's all about holding space.
Yes.
And above all else, I think it's all about feeling very honoured that you get to spend time with somebody like that.
Absolutely. The appreciation, the gratitude, like you said, it's quite interesting because, I say to people, Look at COVID as I know it's not the same, but thank God for that. But look at COVID like being told you've got cancer. Detox, people. Get rid of things that aren't serving you. Be grateful for what you have. Don't look at the petty stuff like you just said. It's not petty, but you know what I mean? When you think of, like, if you put yourself in a situation where you're like, oh, look what COVID did to me. Well, go and sit with someone who is about to pass on, who's they're about to leave this earth once and for all, and see what what they hold more sacred than what you do. And it really puts a lot of things into perspective. Like you said, it's not about the money, it's about the regrets. I actually sent out a message on Facebook and I said, what are the two things that people regret the most when they've just been told or the two things that scare them the most when they're just being told? One of them was 50% actually said not living the life I wanted, and the other 50 said leaving my family behind. And I thought, okay, so leaving your family behind is one thing, but hang on, what about the ones that said, I regret not living? Well, start damn living. Whether you've got 5 minutes left of your life or whether you've got 50 years left of your life, start living. I talk about a gentleman that we were blessed to have met. He passed away last year in September. He was given 18 months, which I don't like contracts with doctors, but that's another story. But he lived the fullest. When I say the fullest, I sucked out everything from this man that I possibly could. Yeah, he taught me so many lessons, but not lessons about, how to live a better life with cancer or da-da-da. He taught me what morals are. He taught me the integrity. He taught me things that you can't be taught. You have to feel it and learn them for yourself. Does that make sense? You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
He taught me those things that you can't learn from a book. You can't learn, because eat five. He did tell me to eat 15 carrots a day and circle 3 times around my street. No, he just really taught me the meaning of life, the meaning of life. Yeah,
Yeah. So unconditional love, I say I live by unconditional love. What does that mean? Well, it means that I give love to everyone. I give love to everyone. I mean,
unconditionally.
Unconditionally, right? There's just endless amounts of love in this world. And just to make somebody's day by giving them a smile or just being nice or being kind.
Absolutely.
It's not hard, you won't always get it back. That pisses some people off, if I'm going to be honest. They don't like it. It's fine. You can see their wounding or whatever. Yeah, I think I love wholeheartedly my friends and everyone that's in my life. I really do give my all.
But that's what you can do. Like you said, you just, you now being, you said, I've been given a second chance. And I love that. I love that because, it's really crazy how many stories I heard of either I spoke to one lady who talks about it and she laughs about it, adultery. She got adultery while she was diagnosed. And I thought, or she just got diagnosed after, something like that. I hear about people that leave after you've, whether before or after. I've even heard people who have gone through the whole journey and that person's in remission and then they leave them. So I hear all of these things. You don't know what happens, but life has something for you. Life is a journey and life says, okay, you know what? I have to give you, I have to shake, because I always say to people, you didn't stay in the relationship because you have your reasons, and everyone does. But we spoke about this the other day with my husband and I said, I can't understand why people stay in relationships, but I guess what I'm trying to say is life or spirit or whoever you believe in knows that you have more potential. Both of you have more potential, not just one person in the relationship, both of you. So life says, you know what? You guys have got so much to give, but together you're not giving it.
Yeah, I agree.
Does that make sense?
I think, yeah, absolutely. I suppose if you just look at my life and my journey, right? I had mum died, and then my dad died. Then my manager at Microsoft took her own life. There was just death, death, death. And then I was in a relationship where I think it was incredibly one-sided. Like I said, I give my all. And, I'm still really good friends with my ex as we share a child. But, we just didn't have the same love language, I guess. I would have stayed in that relationship because I was modeling the pattern that my mum and dad, right? And I was tracing. Oh, healers. But, at the end of the day, what you think is your worst nightmare turns out to be the best thing that can ever happen to you. Because what inevitably, what life's always trying to do is give you wake-up calls, you see. Every death of a significant person in your life is a bit of a wake-up call. It's a bit of a shake.
Absolutely.
Where are you at? Are you on your path or are you not on your path? So when it obviously happened, like back in April, and it, three things happened at the same time. I fell to my knees and just went, okay, I'm listening. What the hell do you want from me? And pretty much got the call of, you're here to heal people, girlfriend. Just take your shit out. Pretty much.
Yeah.
And so that's it. I've just been following my guidance ever since. And that's with all decisions that are coming my way. I listen to what my inner guidance has given me. The inner guidance has always been right. The one that told me that I had cancer, the one that told me I wasn't going to die, the one that told me to go to Australia, the one that told me I was going to have a kid, the one that, that inner guidance, I listen to that. Perfect. And I think everybody's got that inner guidance. The difference are you listening to it or are you not? And that's something that gets stronger the more you listen to it.
Absolutely. And it's true, like you said, because the thing is, it's there, but so many people are just running like a ping pong, ping, 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 going all over the place where they don't actually stop, just stop. And I know a lot of people think, what do you mean stop? You can't, it's not just stop in a physical sense, it's stop, just stop. Because the thing is, you're running away from your authentic self, because like you said, you would have stayed in that relationship. You would have, because it's the whole portrait of, yes, I'm a loving wife, I'm a loving mum, the picket fence, the house, whatever it is, you know what I mean? It's that fairy tale story. And sometimes, like I said, life just, and we're not here to say to people, leave your husband tomorrow, No, we're not saying that. None of us are saying that. But what we're saying is, like in 2000, I speak openly about it. In 2017, just before I was diagnosed, we had a massive crack in our foundation in my marriage, massive. We were both out the door. So, you know what I mean? So it's basically saying is, are we going to fix this? But fix this as two individuals coming together, or are we going to go our individual ways? And what it was is we realized in our relationship, we were trying to change one another. And instead of accepting, correct. So instead of changing the person, you just accept how they are now. Yes, do I still have my moments with my husband? Oh God, yeah. He's like, Grace, don't ever bullshit and tell people it's perfect. No, I'm not. You know what I mean? But it's just that, it's knowing it's not just your husband. I always say that when I say to people, I took a massive step back. I detoxed everything around me. Where was I working, or who was I? If you're in a job that you can't stand, if you're in a relationship you can't stand, if you're around people who put you down, if you're whatever it is. Yeah.
That's the big one. Who are the people that you're around? And are they people that lift you up and make you feel good about yourself? Or are they people that are tearing you down? And if you've got people that are tearing you down, you've got to ask yourself, is this really a friend? Is this really helping me?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Good old mentor.
Yeah, you got to love him. But, speaking of that, so then you've also, NLP master, I know when I met you, you were you're completing that. So if you want, because, I'll obviously, if you've got I know you got your Facebook and your Instagram, which I'll let the viewers actually access that so they can learn more about you and, and things like that. So just let me know a little bit about the NLP mastery that you're doing, or you did.
So Tony Robbins is an incredible human being, and everybody knows it. But Tony obviously started with NLP. That's basically the basis behind it. I think he's incredible. I've seen him turning people's lives around live right in front of my face. So NLP was something that I knew was going to, and it was about a journey of healing myself initially, Grace. You know, tried and tested on myself. Yeah. So obviously being an NLP master, which is timeline therapy, so if people have heard about that, it's about going back in your timeline and fixing your anger and your fear, sadness, you know, guilt and shame, and going back to the points of your life. And we're not talking just in this life. It might be down your ancestral line. It might be past lives. Where did that pain originate from that you're carrying through to this life? And what you do is you release the pain there, which just releases you completely, breaks the glass ceiling above you. Like suddenly everything that was impossible is not impossible anymore. And so, yeah, it's been an amazing journey. NLP is great. It's part of what I use in my coaching. Has Rod done it? Has your husband done it as well?
No, he hasn't. He has. Well, he has touched on NLP, but yes. But he did more of the he did the Tony Robbins coaching with Chloe Madanis. Yeah.
I think part of that is teaching a lot of the NLP strategies. But really, to get a life coach that has those modalities, therapy is unbeatable. It's you know, I'm not saying counselling is great and it's a journey for some people. I'm actually doing a diploma in counselling as well, just to get the things. I'm one of those people that likes to know the ins and outs, even though I'm a natural counsellor. I want, you know.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's something that I do is counselling, and that's something, a journey that people do need to go on. They do need that journey. Whereas people like you and I, Grace, that just want to run out the door and fix the world. See, that's why timeline therapy really helps. That coupled with hypnosis, then, you know, you can give smoking, weight loss. You've got to remember, we're all attached to our negative beliefs and our value systems that we've picked up since childhood, that we believe a certain way. And you don't know what they are, but your belief system might be that men are stronger than women, let's say, for instance, right? Something that you believe in. But that's actually a value or a belief system that's been put in there. And that can then hold you back in certain areas in this world. Or something bigger than, you know, women are not as good in business as men. And so that's a belief system that you might have picked up. It allows you to eliminate those. It takes away, obviously, fears, anxieties, and all of that sort of stuff as well. So it's been amazing, very powerful.
I bet it has, because it's, you know, like you said, the more you have under your belt, the better it is for you to be able to help others. It's not. I'm not saying it's the be all end all, because life is a massive teaching. You know what I mean? So, you know, life is a lesson in itself. So, but like yourself, I'm looking at going back and doing psychology. And it's not because I'm going to become a psychologist or psychiatrist. It's just knowing that side, so it better helps me understand the spiritual side, because when you combine the two, because when we talk spiritual, we both understand what it means, but a lot of people go, I don't get it. What do you mean spiritual? Don't tell me you stand under the sun with a crystal over your head and you chant. Well, it's not just that, you know what I mean? Yeah, you get what I'm saying? It's a lot deeper. Yeah, but you know what I mean? Because it's a lot of people don't understand the spiritual side of things, you know, and I always try and speak about it, because spirituality, we say you do not speak about. So someone who says that they're spiritual, you don't see it because they're telling you 1,000 times. It's because you can actually see it in their core that they're spiritual, and you can feel it. Yes.
As an empath, and I'm also
correct.
And you can feel somebody's energy, and the more you step into spirituality, the more it develops within you. So you can have an awakening, and you'll suddenly think, God, what was that? People that can hear things, some people are seers. There's different. Everybody's got the skills.
Absolutely,
got skills inside them, but it's if you unlock it. And spirituality is about walking on your path, and it's about, like you said earlier, Grace, it's about your journey, you see. See, in relationships, it's not about, oh, I've got a partner, now I've got to change them. It's about, I've got a partner and I'm going to change myself. And we keep growing on our own. And the partner that's right for us is the one that does the same as us. My partner at the moment does men's work, and he works, he's a very conscious guy. So he's developing, and as we're moving along together. And if that journey, I go off in a different direction, then that's just the way that life is. You see, we're not meant, we are individuals.
Absolutely.
Right people, and you can be the right person for the rest of your life, and it's perfect.
Yeah, but it's true, because you say that, because like I said before, a lot of people feel like they're not stuck, but they have this belief that oh, well, I'm now a mum, I'm now a wife, and this is my 9 to 5 or 9 to 9, whatever it is. But it's not that. You're not put on this earth to be just that. Yes, you have those roles, but it's not who you are. Like when you ask a person, who are you? And they go, who am I? Oh, well, I'm Grace. No, but who are you? Oh, I'm a wife. No. Who is Grace? It's really hard to go that deep, but that's what we talk about when we talk about your spiritual journey, because on that soul level, when we talk about being at home, a lot of people think, oh yeah, in my house. No. This house, the house in here, this is your home. Your soul, your spirit is your home, and everything around you can come and go. It's impermanent. So if you can connect in your home, then you don't suffer so much when things come and go. Like you said, when you have people that pass on, family members that pass on, or good friends or whoever, these are part of your life. But if you hold on to that, you'll suffer. But if you allow it to be seen as what it was, part of your journey in life, it's a lot easier to go through that and go, you know what? I learned, like this guy that I learned from, he was amazing. I learned so much from him, but I let it go, because if I hold on to it, I suffer. And he wasn't even a close family friend or anything, but he left such an impact on me. So that's what it was. There was a lesson. He was a lesson for me, things like that. So, so having said all of this, like, as I said, you're a healer, an alchemist, a mentor, a life coach. So if people want to get to know a bit more about Tracey, where would they find you? What's Tracey doing, and where would they find you?
Well, so look, at the moment, I'm on Facebook and I'm on Insta, so people can reach out to me that way if they want to get in contact with me. I'm always happy to help anyone if they've got any questions or anything like that. And I'm just going through lockdown at the moment with everyone else, clients and stuff that I'm dealing with. But at the moment, just in building mode. I've got things and plans in place, different things at the moment. But yeah.
Perfect.
Books and stuff like that. But, so there's stuff going on behind the scenes. But for sure, if anyone reach out, you'll find me on Facebook and Insta.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because that, like yourself, I keep getting told to do, not told to do, I want to do a book and things like that. But it's like, hang on. Wait. And everyone's like, no, Grace, you got to bring it forward. I'm like, but yeah, exactly. But in the meantime, what we could do is, like you said, people can reach out if they want to have a chat, if they want to learn a bit more about what you do and things like that. I really encourage you guys to go on into Instagram, Tracey Davies, with a double S 696, or Tracey Davies. I'll have this on my podcast anyway, so people can click on the links and come and follow you. But is there anything else you wanted to share with us before we go?
Oh, not really. I just say listen to your inner guidance. Honestly, in a way. And as hard as it is having cancer, it's also a blessing, because it gives you a totally different perspective from everyone else. And, you could call yourself special, really, because you've gone through something. We're like our own little family of people that are survivors, right? There's an inner strength that we all have in ourselves that we don't realize we have until we've gone through something like that. Voice, and your experience is going to help someone else. So what I'd say is, you have a choice what to do with what happens to us in our world. I believe that. But, you know, you really have a choice to go, look at you and I, you know, we've spent, I suppose, part of my self counseling is to help others through my experience. And
Absolutely.
yeah, and just enjoy life. Like, that's my advice, is have fun. I know it's hard at the moment, we're in lockdown, but God, you know, we've got access, we've got the World Wide Web now. We can be anywhere in the world, just online. And so, and your back garden, I might have made my back garden magical, to be honest.
Your back garden is magical, though. See, not everyone has a beautiful tropical backyard like you do. So, you know, let's all go to Tracey's house. Let's all go. She's got a beautiful backyard.
Yeah, I don't know. I just make the best out of the little things. It's the little things.
Absolutely. I agree. And I think
we are our own superheroes, basically, because we're all unique and there is no one like you on the planet. So you should use that to your advantage. Totally unique.
Authentic self. We speak about it all the time. Be you, because everyone else is taken. So, you know what I mean? I always say that as well. So don't try and be the next best person next door to you. There's only one, you know, Tony Robbins. There's only one Kim Kardashian. So don't try and be like them. Be you. The world needs more you in the world. I thank you on that. I really, really appreciated your time, your story. Thank you for sharing. You know, I'm going to be in contact with you anyway. So, but I can't wait to hear more about what you're going to be doing. And I can't wait to, you know, to be part of your journey. I really can't. So I thank you again. And thanks everyone for tuning in, no matter where you are in the world. So thanks for listening in. And I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. And like always, I wish you so much love and light.